Hey guys, Rocky here. I got myself a nice little project here for today, so I thought maybe I should record it, show you guys what's going on. What happened was this morning when I went out for a cup of coffee and went to close my garage door from outside within the car. On the sun visor I actually have a button up there that's programmed to close the door. So I pushed the button and nothing happened. So I tried it several times and it just wouldn't work. I did notice now over the last few days that, or probably the last week or so, that the door would go all the way down when I pushed the button on the visor. It would go all the way down about 6 inches from the floor and then would turn around and open again. Now that's the kind of behavior that you would get if there was obstruction between the sensors. The doors have sensors, well, not sensors, actually one is a sensor and one actually is a transmitter, I guess you'd call it. One actually transmits or sends a ultra, what's it called? It sends some kind of invisible beam, like a red light, ultraviolet, I think it is, ultraviolet red light or something. Anyway, it sends it across to the other side. From one side of the door, it sends it across to the other side. The other side of the door, you have your receiver over there, which is another unit that looks similar. They both look like they have little electronic eyes in front of them. And when they're properly lined up, that beam, infrared, a beam of light, goes across from one sensor to the other. And when it hits the other sensor picks it up and says, it's okay for the door to close. It continues to power the door, lets the door close. If I were to walk over when the door is on its way down and stick my foot or my hand in between those sensors and break the beam so that it doesn't make it across to the other side, the sensor doesn't get to pick it up, then the door would stop and it would close. So it's a safety factor, I guess, in case a kid walks in there and the door is coming down, or you start to back out with your car, the door is coming down, it'll stop, whatever the case may be. If the door needs to stop for a safety reason or to prevent any damage, if that beam is broken, it'll stop. So that's how it was acting. It was acting when I was pushing the button on the visor and the door was coming down. It was acting as if somebody was standing there, putting their foot in front of the beam, breaking the beam, or putting a hand there. Or there was sometimes, I got some junk in here. If I got a cardboard box that falls down and happens to fall within the path of the beam, the door will open just fine, but the door won't close. So, I wondered, well, okay, what's going on? I thought maybe there must be something wrong with my button on my sun visor. I kind of thought maybe that was the problem. Maybe the button's sticking, I thought, or maybe it has a battery and the battery's going dead in it or something like that. But it just completely quit today. I thought, okay, all right, well, it's quit working on the sun visor on the cars, on that button out there. So I came in and I pushed the button inside here that we have on the door over there. Looks like a doorbell. I pushed that button and I got nothing, absolutely nothing. Now this is still lit up. It's got power to it, but when I push it, we don't get anything. So that leaves me wondering what's gone here. Do we have a problem with the motor? Did the motor burn up? That's not good if it did. We're looking at probably about $200 to replace it, just to buy it, and then I got to install it. Or did we pop a circuit breaker? I'm not sure about the circuit breaker. I didn't check the circuit breaker board yet downstairs in the basements in the house. There's only one panel out here that I installed. There was no panel out here initially. I installed this panel up here myself. Right here. I had to run this power in from outside, from the house, and installed this because I needed it for the compressor. And the compressor plugs into 210 or 220, whatever you want to call it. Also put another one over behind the monitor over there, which is a 220 connection just like this. And what that's for is if I want to plug in a welder or something. I have a nice 220 arc welder that I would plug in there. Anything that runs off 220 I can plug into that, or this one over here on this side. So yeah, so I know that there's nothing wrong out here in the garage in terms of circuits. Another reason I know there's no problem out here in the garage is circuits, because I think everything is on a 15 amp breaker, and I think that breaker controls the lights, those 4 lights there, and all of the receptacles. There's a receptacle over here. There's a receptacle over there. There's, I think, 1 or 2 receptacles on this side. So yeah, I think that's all on the same breaker, and that's in the house, on the fuse panel in the house. So if the breaker in there had popped, that would have no lights out here and anything, I don't think. But I'm not sure. I have a receptacle up there that that's the actual garage door opener up there, and it plugs in that receptacle up there. So I ask myself, how do I identify what the actual problem is? Well, you got to look at it like this: process of elimination. So the first thing I got to do is I got to climb up to the motor and where we have our receptacle plugging in, and I've got to take something with me like a lamp, blow dryer, something I can plug in that I know works, and see whether or not there's any power coming on the receptacle. If there's power coming to the receptacle, then that means there's a problem with the motor. Now, if that turns out to be the case, then I got to ask myself, does the motor have a fault protection? Does it have some form of a fusible circuitry that will pop and cause the motor not to work, to protect the motor itself? A lot of units, like various different electronic motors and things like that, will actually have a fault protection, they call it, I think. So I've got to first off see if I get any power coming to the receptacle. If I do, then I've got to find out, either go online and see if there's a manual online PDF form that I can look at that will tell me about this specific model and see if it has fault protection. Another thing I could do would be just to look at the unit itself. It may say somewhere on the outside of it. If it does have fault protection, I might find where the fuse is and be able to replace the fuse if that's the case, which I'm hoping, if there's some problem up there other than the circuit breaker in the house, if there's a problem with the motor itself, I hope it's just fault protection, something that can be fixed fairly easily. So without further ado, I'm going to pause you guys for the moment and climb up and do my test for power. Actually, maybe I'll just leave the camera on and let you guys see how I do that, which is pretty straightforward, but do that anyway.